Welcome everyone to the Going Local podcast, which I'm pretty sure is a name because we haven't changed it yet. Today is a pretty cool day because I get to ask questions to someone that I've had a million questions for a long time. Straight across from me, we've got Busy B. To my left, I have Daniel Himel, the Sir Daniel Himel.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, man.
It's awesome. This is great. Thank you.
So walk us through, what do you have going on right now? Because it seems like you always have plates spinning, many plates.
Yeah, I've got a couple things going on right now. My main project that I work on most of the time is a youth baseball tournament. It's actually grown more than just baseball. That started right here in Frisco in 2012, and it just crazy little idea, and I can go into it more, but a crazy little idea over a beer that I had with one of my buddies, and 6 to 8 weeks later, we had this little baseball tournament, and then it just went viral. So, the first year we had 174 players, and now just in the Dallas area, we get 3,000 players twice a year. And then, it went to, we started selling franchises with it. So now we're in multiple states, and this year we have 18 different markets on the books. So
18 different markets?
Yeah, so like Las Vegas, Orlando, Tampa, Atlanta, just Wichita, Omaha.
Yo. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we're just growing everywhere. The plan was to really expand. At first it was kind of run like, oh, this is a fun little bit. And then it was like, oh, this is a pretty cool side gig. And then we built much like industrial, where it just turned into something that we didn't realize. It wasn't even what we were trying to do. It just turned into something really magical. And whenever I say that word magical, it sounds kind of airy-fairy, but that was actually some of the testimonials that we would get from parents. Was like, this is just such a magical experience. We look forward to it every year. And then,
and before you get too far, let's back up just a little bit to who you are, who Daniel Himel is, okay. Because I know where I met you, you were at a different point in your life than I'm sure where you really started. You're a guy that's full of wisdom. Kind of walk us through, you own many different things now. Was it always that way? Were you always someone who was entrepreneurial driven, or did you work for enough shitty bosses that you didn't want to anymore?
It's kind of a combination of both. I have a crazy, weird background where I always say I've lived the lives of many men. I got married and I had a family when I was already in high school. I became a paramedic, and then I eventually went into the Navy through a special officer program. And while I was in the Navy, I got a degree in computer science. It went pretty crazy, but ultimately I landed in corporate America here in the Dallas area at Mary Kay Cosmetics, where I kind of moved myself up the e-commerce chain. And when I left there, I was the manager of e-commerce for Latin America. So I really got my feet wet on building big software projects. That's my background is software. And then during that time, I lost my first wife, and that kind of turned into I don't want to do this forever. Like I saw my boss, and I don't want to be that guy. Not that he was pretty terrible, but that's when I started like, hey, I got more skills, I want to do something else. So I started, I built a software platform over a couple of years. It was pre-Facebook groups. And that eventually I had an exit from that in 2000. What was that? That was 2017. I had an exit from that. So, during that time, because of the way the software platform was built, I had to get good at marketing, but the software platform was for endurance coaches, and they were all great coaches, but none of them knew how to market either. So I had to teach them how to market. So during that time, I got really good at like this digital marketing, which I had no training in. It's not my background, but I got really, really good at that. Because I got good at that, I was able to spin off. Once you have that skill set, and I think it's the most valuable skill set, even the most basic thing, once I was able to get that in, I was able to validate. Everybody has a lot of people have these business ideas. Like they have a list of 100 business ideas. If you can get this very small skill set with the technology that's available today in these days, you could spend $100 and completely validate that business idea versus before it was like, okay, go get a logo, get a storefront, get inventory, get staff, now you could like, before any of that happens, you could prove out an idea before you throw a lot of money on it. A good example is when COVID hit in ICC, you guys switched to, you guys started doing e-commerce over a weekend, right?
Yes.
Biz, you know that pivot.
Yeah,
that was a 72-hour
straight haul, no sleep, no tire, just go for it.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of stuff that's possible. That stuff wasn't even possible 5 years ago, and then even now, I mean, I don't know if you guys would call yourself e-commerce experts, but you guys latched onto a platform that allowed you to just dig in, stay up all night, and pretty soon you guys are selling cigars online. And because that's so possible now, I really like any idea I come up with. I'm always throwing it out there and seeing what sticks, and ultimately, this baseball tournament definitely stuck, and that's what I mainly do full time. I have this really kind of crazy, hardcore weekly productivity gamification system called Week Freak. That's probably a big part of my thing that I do now too, and then I'll do some high end consulting for some people, select people on projects that I think are really cool. But always have my hands in something, and it is because I feel like I have this superpower to be able to go out there and validate any business idea. For anybody for a couple $100.
I think a lot of Daniel Himel I see in you, Biz.
Oh my God, I'm sitting here like you can't see my feet under the table tippity tapping, because that's exactly how a million ideas they come up, and you try to make sure that you can. But like, I've never gotten to the point to be able to justify them. They just sound like great ideas, great concepts. Oh my God, what if I can do this? But like, I've always had the issue how to get it past that creation stage.
Yeah.
How to start executing.
Yeah, just what you guys did. I mean, there's a lot more urgency when you guys went e-com with ICC, but it's the same concept where you could put in a weekend's worth of work and $100 worth of Facebook advertising and get clients before you have a product. Really, if you have an idea of really anything,
it's interesting because when we were talking, we've spoken for a number of years, but when you were speaking about that digital platform and utilizing Facebook ads and validating your vision, it was so cool because when we look at it, we have a specific call to action. We need to get people to, this is a live fire drill. This is a part of a client. We can't afford to take somebody to a dead end. And I remember you telling me, well, we're just going to set up this part of the funnel, and they can get to the end, fill out their information, and it doesn't even have to actually take them somewhere, but you know that there are 80 people there that are interested in it. So it's
I mean,
there.
if you could, when I'm validating something, it usually ends up with like ultimately giving your email to an early bird list, or send me more information. If you can't get somebody to give you an email, you're probably not gonna be able to sell them a product, especially a high ticket product. Sometimes it just takes some tweaking your messaging, or your offer is a little off, but now you've spent $100 or $200 and some sweat equity into an idea that you're able to scrap or really grab onto. And you could do that with a lot of ideas. You could do that over 6 weeks with your 5 best ideas, and now you're in for $1,000, and you're going to figure out which one is really going to be a lot more fun and take you where you're trying to go.
So what would you, if we took it from a live fire perspective, Biz has a number of trucks that he's looking at putting on the road commercially, and I don't know if they're dump trucks, cement trucks, or they're dump trucks. And he wants to get them on the road. He's got a couple ideas, and he has some people to follow. What would be your approach to go, okay, I think we've got a concept here that I know is working elsewhere. How would somebody who has an idea maybe stoke that fire or see if the Kinder would catch?
For something like that, I feel like this is that great. A lot of people are doing this right now, and this is a great opportunity, because I'd imagine most dump truck businesses, their online presence is not great. Like, it's probably
it's more of relationships,
right?
Some load boards and everything, but it's more of who cold calling construction companies or whoever moving stuff. So it's more relationship based. But I've been trying to find a way, like you said, to validate it or to create another way to get other clients versus the traditional old methods?
Yeah, so what I would do for something like that is I would go out to, so that's a search thing. I think probably some people are looking for a new dump truck vendor. Is that what it's, a vendor? Are you guys?
Yeah, you can
a
call
service,
it
a new disposal service like that. So that would be like almost a Google AdWords type thing. And I would go out there and spend some money on the Google AdWords, make sure that you have just a landing page that looks way more professional and like caught up to, like something that like a millennial will be like, this is the dump truck service I'm going to get. Because that's where there's a lot of people busting into industries like maid services and lawn services, and they're killing it just by making these the websites look more approachable.
The perception is just like, wow.
Yeah, shiny, new, and you could click to chat and people answer the phone, right? So I bet you could do that. And what's nice about Google AdWords or something like that is it'll tell you how many people are searching for it, and it'll tell you what people are paying for it. So you'll be able to say, okay, if I want to get clicked, if I want to get 100 people, if I want to test 100 people on my site, it'll tell you how much you're going to have to spend approximately, and then get people to your site. And once you have that traffic, now can you convert them? And then you could figure out a way to convert them just by having them do a phone call or anything, even before you even have the service kind of ready. And that's kind of this vapor style of service, but using that methodology, you can validate that business in a weekend, and it would just take a little bit of time, and then you'll be able to know, like, wow, with very little effort, I spent $200 to get 100 people to my site, and then I got 5 phone calls, and you could backtrack the math there, and hey, if I can convert one of those 5 phone calls to an ongoing client, and I can imagine that the value over a lifetime is worth $2,700, and then you could start doing the math, and then it's a spreadsheet where you could just basically turn up the volume on it. Say, I'm ready to do this, and that's a real thing that you could take to other investors, and go from there.
And then your validation is already done. You can be like, look, I've already shown you that I got this many people interested in the service, and we haven't even launched it yet.
Right, and you can call them up. Here's their numbers. They're looking for that's what if you're looking for some kind of financial backing. That's a great way to start too. I've already pre-sold these clients, and then sometimes a lot of your initial clients could be your initial investors even. So
I just got $700 worth of free information, ladies and gentlemen. just saying.
So let's take that, because I have seen middle school matchup. Middle school matchup is your little league baseball, your middle school baseball tournament, which is now turned into an organization and a serious business now in many different markets. And I've seen the sparkle in your eye when you talk about that. So maybe make that pivot back to middle school matchup. You go from an idea of 167 or however many that was, 100-ish kids. Now you're talking 3,000 in DFW. What are some maybe the challenges that you saw between 160 kids to 18 different regions you're now in?
For me, it's I like to stay pretty lean because I feel like I did my time in corporate America. So I want to keep my teams small. So I'm really reluctant to hire people, and it's kind of this is a personal thing. It's kind of a mindset where I don't want to grow too big, because I feel like managing people is really tough as it is, and it's really not what I'm best at. So working through that has been difficult for me. And then because of the seasonality of the tournament, there's 2 events per year. At first, there was just 1 event per year. Cash flow is a big problem, because I pretty much just get a big giant dump of cash, once or twice a year. So being able to stretch that across and hire people within that, because it's hard to get somebody that really wants to do what you want to do. But I'm like, hey, we can only hire you seasonally, and that's hard to build processes around. That's hard to build culture around. So I feel like I'm operating on an island, much of it. But the way that we fixed that was now we're not seasonal anymore, because now we have events going year round, at least this year.
So you're basically turning this into a league?
No, think of it like it'll be more of like the color run. We model a little bit of that. It's almost like a tour. Like we stop in these towns once or twice a year, and we hold this cool little baseball event, softball event, We're moving into 7-on-7 this year. And we stop by, and it's got a unique format. And then, so it's like the circus comes to town, and then we leave, and then we go on to the next stop.
That's really cool. That's what a smart way to get that, how you go week by week and create that kind of, we used to have the punt, pass, and kick. Kind of that same.
It's the similar concept, right? So they visit different, tour stops or whatever like that. Very similar concept. So we just come in, put it on, and leave.
And importantly, we didn't touch, because I think the most important part of what you've done is you've identified a true need to this. Because on the face value, for everyone who's listening now, they're going, okay, it's a middle school baseball tournament, but they don't understand where the true genius is finding out this niche in this need that was there, that was just hidden.
Yeah, so the reason this is a unique format is here in Texas and in most places across the states, at your middle school level, your 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you could play on your school team. You could play football, basketball, volleyball, soccer, track, lots of different things, but usually not baseball. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. During those ages, the kids are they're skipping field sizes. A baseball field is single use and pretty expensive to maintain with the grass cuts and mounds, and it's just not very cost efficient for most of these places to do it. So they've just left baseball out of it. So all these kids, they play on these everything from like recreational leagues, little leagues, all the way to these travel teams that fly across the nation and meet up at places. But they never get that chance to play with their pals from school. And my kid, he was in the 7th grade at the time. He's a college athlete now, and he actually runs our tournaments now, which is kind of fun. I was like, man, he was a single sport athlete and one of the better kids in the area. And I was like, man, the kids at school don't even know he's an athlete because he doesn't play anything. He doesn't, he wasn't, one of these big boys or anything like that. And I was like, man, it would be really cool to do that. And that was the idea. And it was on a Saturday night. And we played poker that night. And I was in bed the next morning. I was like, you know what? If I don't get out of bed right now and put up that site, do the ICC pivot, I'm never going to do it. And sure enough, we spent all day putting that site up and then started running Facebook ads and trying to spread the word on Monday. And we had signups that week, and it just kind of kept on growing. And then, these kids play for their middle school for one weekend out of the year. They're all on other teams at different levels. They come together and they play. And we thought it was really kind of cool and neat and all that stuff, but it's insane. These kids just love playing with their pals. The kids that are really good love showing off how good they are and mentoring the other kids. And then the kids that are play more recreational, they love showing what they've got. And really, and I went through this as a parent too. Parents think that some kids are here and some kids are here, and really they're mostly about here. You're much better than you think you are, and you're probably not as good as you think you are. Mm-hmm. And they kind of meet in the middle, and then it becomes much more about just hanging out for that weekend than the games themselves. Now, on Sunday when they go into the bracket games, the teams that win are very, very good teams, but it's luck. It's like are there good kids playing in that neighborhood? Just like in high school, it's just like sometimes your football team is really good because those 3 classes that are, of starters just happen to be really good that year, and then you kind of draw down, and then it just I would have never guessed it. So now it's like this whole thing where all the other teams shut down for the weekend. We had a team that sold out in 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So parents are sitting there because it's first come first serve. And we don't do tryouts or anything like that. And parents are sitting there like a concert, right? Right when we open the gates, they're like slamming the servers and
has it ever crashed before?
Early on, that's when I knew we were onto something. Was our year 3 was the first year we got like 1,300, and that's when the team started selling out. We crashed the servers, and we have it on video. Maybe I could send it to you.
That's a celebration moment.
I was not celebrating. I was freaking out. And,
good and bad.
But so. I would have never expected it, and then be able to self-franchise doing it and brought on a whole new thing. And then now we're focusing more on corporate locations, but it's just been so fun. We brought on softball along the way. they're a whole new different dynamic to everything. It's the weirdest thing in the world.
Do you have anybody recruiting or looking at kids and coming checking them out, like colleges?
Not colleges, but what does happen is the high school coaches now have caught on to this, and we're serving up their program, an early look at their program years ahead. So the high school coaches will come down and watch the teams, and many of them coach the teams. It's perfectly UIL legal. They can't touch them and not touch them, but they can't coach them. As soon as they end 8th grade, they can't do anything with them that summer. But before then, they can do that. Or during high school, if it's extracurricular, they can't coach other select teams and things like that. But so they'll come down and coach these middle school kids. They love that, and it also kind of brings back. By the time these kids are in high school, they have a different attitude set than some of these middle schoolers have. So it kind of brings joy back into their games. And then because of the way the youth baseball programs are right now, there's a lot of like kind of pay to play select teams, like club teams. So they're looking for players. So a lot of these clubs will come out and they'll spy on kids that are playing in rec leagues, and they'll see some potential where, hey, the kid's a big kid, or he's just never told how good he is, or so they'll recruit out of that. And that was something else that opened up later.
That's what happened with our 12-year-old. He was playing for Frisco League football. And but it also goes akin to what you said before. Jesse was the man. He was just super running back, super tackle, super everything. So he thought he was here. So we paid and put him in a select league, and he got that first hit on that game. And all of a sudden he went to here, like real quick. Reality set. I mean, he still excelled and did his thing, but now you're talking about something that pushed you above it. But what he said the biggest deal was, the reason why he was so pressed about select league wasn't because he wanted to go upper echelon. All of his buddies were going to the select league. So when all the friends and buddies, and they all got on the same team, and it didn't matter. They were out there having fun. And as a parent, for me, if my child is having a ball and being competitive at the same time, but it's just letting them play, I'll pay that check.
Yeah, this feels, having seen it firsthand, it feels like a very organized sandlot. It has that feel of, the kids at the end of the day, or really at the end of the tournament, you got the water balloon, water fight, which is awesome. But you get that feeling that they're all going to go home and make s'mores.
Yeah, it's totally the way it is. And some of the coaches get mad when we schedule games too close together because they want to have lunch in between, and they just want to celebrate that weekend. It's really just a celebration of baseball and friendships. And, every year we get hundreds of testimonials, and some of them, when I read them, they'll make you want to cry. It really does affect kids' lives. They get new peer groups. It's amazing. I would have never guessed it. You guys have the same stories here at ICC.
Well, it's community.
It is. It's community.
It's community. It's meaning. It's impact. It's, quite honestly, it's a very simple thing on the outside at 30,000 feet, just playing baseball, just smoking cigars.
Right.
But you're creating memories. And You're creating relationships.
And the select stuff, it's an important part of a kid's journey to play at the next level. But there's also we need this space for them just to go out there and have fun. There's a lot of teams now that are letting the kids coach, kids choose lineups. It's a lot like Sandlot. So I would have never guessed.
I could imagine they get, especially now, because when back home, we had an organization called KWAA, Kingswood Athletic Association, and it was just Little League football. And you showed up, and the best kids, you knew them, and they moved on. There wasn't this select deal, but then moving down here to the DFW area, you realize how competitive kids get.
Yes.
Third graders getting competitive, where I've got to imagine by 8th grade, they have 5 years of...
I have a 6 just turned 7-year-old, and his flag football team, all these little babies, they have plays on their wrists to open them up. They run drills 3 times a week. I literally think they practice harder than my 12-year-old in a select team.
Yeah, it's crazy. They probably have read options. And
yes.
Yeah.
I should show you the text messages the coach sends. I have NFL playbooks, and I can look at Madden and look at all the play. These guys are 6 and 7, and the thing is, my son Oliver, my little one, is a hyper all over the place. We call him yabbity blabs, blah 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 blah. But the minute he puts on his little helmet and his cleats, zones out to where it's almost scary. He doesn't want to talk to you. He just wants to focus on that football and what he has to do. When the game's over, then they just click off and they're playing and throwing and having a good time. But when they're in that game time, all bets are off.
That's why the sports is important. You know, it's an important part, and I'm happy to bring that to people at different levels for sure.
Well, now you're taking it to a national level. There's one thing that we've adapted. Well, there are many things that we've adapted into what we do with Go Local Group because of you, and because of your success and the wisdom that you've granted to us, and we're eternally grateful for that. There's one small tactic that small businesses can utilize, because we find ourselves in a very weird spot where you eat what you kill. And a lot of times you do everything from lead generation to fulfillment to billing, admin, all of it. But there's a weird spot where you really you have all chips on the table and you have a lot of open invoices. But you're also the front face with the client or with the customer or whoever it is. So you don't want to say, hey, you owe me $10,000. Give me my $10,000 and be that person. So you guys came up with something that we actually adopted that I think is...
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It is the coolest thing. We actually named ours Carry.
Okay.
So because of this, but if you want to talk through that, I think it's just absolute brilliance that any business owner should adopt.
Yeah, this is my wife's. I don't remember if this is her idea or where she got it from, but we've adopted it. We don't have invoices right now in Middle School Matchup this way, a bit with the franchising side, but basically we just create this persona, this imaginary persona, and that's our heavy of the group, and that's the one that needs to collect the invoices. We call her Gina, and she's the one that sends like the nasty emails, like, "Hey, you need to pay up." It's the good cop, bad cop thing, and when you're doing everything like you said, you need to keep things cool and more comfortable on the front end. But Gina's in the back that they've never met, sending these emails like, "Hey, you've got to pay up, or we're gonna have to discontinue." It's great.
It is the greatest thing.
It's the greatest thing ever.
Because you really build that sub brand of who Gina is or whoever it is. And she's a bulldog. Like, she's really nice. She's good at what she does, but she is a bulldog. You know, you do play that good cop, bad cop.
That's awesome that you brought that up.
Yeah,
makes me happy.
Honestly, Carrie
Gina
Stevens.
here? No, man, she just left. You just missed her. You just missed her, but trust me, she's waiting on you to come in, so I'll just take care of that. Come on in, and I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's the easy way out, especially for a pussy like myself, who I don't like to go and rock the boat.
Right.
I don't need to.
Exactly. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, and unfortunately, a lot of our relationships are relationships. So even we have clients that your relation is to. Like, the biggest thing for me when I'm out this side of gigs is I'm a photographer. And it is so hard for me to charge people money that I'm close to even, you know, as photographers, they tell you to take your rate, bump it up. You're never charging enough. So it's hard to charge friends and family just, you know, what it is, because I feel guilty, or you just don't want to hang them out there. And then I've been blessed that a lot of people around here that I've done it for, they understand you have a family, you got to make a living. Just what's your price? Let's get it. People that you don't know, like, oh man, is that what you're going to charge me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here you go. Take a discount. It's so hard. But when you have another entity, they're like, hey, this is what it is. You're in or you're out. That makes life so much easier just to survive.
Yeah, every small business needs that, Gina.
I completely agree, whether it's a real person or not. One thing I'm curious about, and I don't want to heavy it up too much, but we went through a rough time in August of 2020, where we legitimately, in 6 days, between Busy, Gabe, and myself, we lost 6 loved ones,
Yes.
very close loved ones, and a dog in 6 days. And our team was hurt and broken. And we didn't know to console ourselves, to move forward, we couldn't even communicate. We actually lost a client because they said, well, what exactly are you guys doing? You know, I understood that Brandon's brother passed, but, you know, what are you guys doing? And we were just so foggy with what we did, we couldn't keep up. So knowing that you've lost your wife, how did you bounce from a Mary Kay corporate world to shake it, now being a single father, mourning, and making that pivot to something that is to where you are now?
Wow. It was a long time ago, but And recently I've found out that maybe I didn't make that pivot as much as I thought. I still have some lingering issues, but man, my wife, Carrie, you know her, she's
incredible.
I don't think I would be I'm definitely not the same person, but I think it could have only taken Carrie to probably help me out of that type thing. We met 3 years later and got married pretty quick, but she's just so amazing and holds me accountable at the same time. But man, I would be a totally different person. I'd probably drink way more than I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without her. She seriously was like an angel and I don't mean that like in a weird area. I mean, what a great gift I had with Carrie, because she's been able to kind of support everything I do, because I was working at Mary Kay and then I was like, hey, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm ready to go. And she gave me grief for about a day, but after that, she's been fully supportive. We've gone pretty dark quite a few times when you're hunting and gathering and killing your own food. You've got, there's times that aren't as plentiful as you wish them to be. But she's been the whole time. So I wouldn't be able to do it without her. So I don't have a lot of.
Would you both say that, attest to that? Because we just had this conversation, was that last night when we was vibed out and talking about a spouse, talking about a rock that's behind you. Because I have to admit the same way. I wouldn't be who I am and where I am if it wasn't for my wife. And I don't know, sometimes do we even stop to think about that? How much or how far are you right now and where you're at, how much, like giving her credit for that, even if it's just pushing you or stabilizing you out, or even sometimes coming up with that aha that you didn't even think about because you have so much going on.
Yeah, she's a great person. I'm able to bounce ideas off her. She's super creative, and now, not a lot of men get to experience this, but now she makes way more money than I did. But she went from 0 to like 120 in like a year, and it puts you. This is getting deep. It puts your masculinity in a little bit of a bind where you're like, man, I'm not the sole provider. I'm still making plenty of money, but she's making, and it's very fun to sit back and say, yeah, now I could, yay, well, let's spend all this money. But deep down inside, you're like, ooh, this is a little tingly.
Now, was she entrepreneurish when you guys first met, or did she start to take on your vibe and your spirit with it and then go 0 to 120 like you just said?
I'm going to say that. And then our kids got old enough. I inspired her for sure. And as soon as our kids got old enough, she always knew that she wanted to go into real estate. She is one of the few people in real estate that really loves real estate. And she's got like this magnetic personality, and we all knew it was going to happen. It happened quick. And she went from like just a normal realtor on the streets to one of the best in the DFW area. And that's awesome. But just honestly, at the same time, it's put some pressure, a different kind of pressure, a good pressure, but it changes up the dynamics a little bit when your wife makes a lot more than you. And I'm the least misogynistic person at all, but I think I'm just trying to be vulnerable and saying that puts it. And if anybody is listening to this and is experiencing that, I'd love to learn what they went through, because it's crazy. And I'm friends with a lot of successful people, and I'm like, I know the way you're acting right now in your relationship with your wife. What would it be like if she outperformed you? Like, what if she was making more money than you now? Would you be able to get away with saying what you just said to her, or just saying, no, we're going to go on this vacation because that's what I want, or hey, we're going to move here because that's it changes up some things.
You don't hold the cards. Not to say that, men necessarily hold the cards, but there's a reason why we live in the United States and not Mexico with my wife, because I'm the provider.
Right.
And it would be a weird thing if it switched around. She said, well, I'm going to move to Mexico now because my job requires us to do it. I'd have to check myself, and
you get deer in the headlights, and you're like, wow, she's got a point. She's the one that's making a lot of money, and this is her life.
And on top of that, I empathize to it, because it's not that she met somebody that scored her into a top position at Toyota. But she grinds. Carrie is a phenomenal personality. She gets it.
Right.
She does above and beyond on everything. She knows no mediocrity.
Right.
She absolutely kills it, and her personality and everything is so genuine that it's not slowing down.
No.
See, and it sounds like I think we both have with our spouses, is that it's different if, like you said, if somebody pushed her in a position versus you watched her growth.
Right.
So when you grow with them and you're growing as well, and if they exceed you, we went through times in our marriage where I was the breadwinner and big time money, and then something happened. I got let go from radio and I had nothing. And she picked up the weight.
Okay.
And it was just always back and forth. And I went to college, in an older age, and I had to be full time. So I got you. And then when I got done and graduated, opened up a photo studio, she quit. She went to college, got her degree. So we've learned to kind of balance it out, and maturity helps as well. I tried that this is my house thing one time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was rough. That was rough. That was, this is your house now. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Let's let you take care. Let's see how much of your house that you actually take care of without me doing nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to learn real fast. But that just goes with time and maturity and the person. And I was told that a lot of people that divorce, you see a lot of these really rich guys, like think about Jeff Bezos. He didn't even blink. And he gave his wife more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime to do her thing. But it's just that I've heard or I've been told sometimes it's not somebody cheating on somebody. It's not nothing. Sometimes you have that other person who just isn't on that same level as you to rise with you.
And I think it goes to our conversation as well, in which makes me super, I don't know if not being hopeful is the other thing, but something that comforts me with this, just knowing the both of you, is in a relationship, like my father was saying, you have two types of people. You have givers and takers.
Yeah.
And knowing you're in a position where both are givers, and the dynamics changing, it's not as though it's going to change to a point where you, all of a sudden, Daniel Himel, you're going to turn into a taker because you can go on vacation whenever you want. Right? That's not who you are.
A little bit it's me, but not that much.
But I mean, you'll never let her just do everything. You'll either, and sometimes I think, am I wrong? Is there a little internal competition? Nothing like, I'm making more money you do, but it's just like.
No, she likes to raise up the number one finger plenty. Like there's some competition. No, and we're both givers, and it's actually pretty fun, and I do nothing but applaud to her. It's just as a man, you want to be the provider. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just some people would say it's just us, right? Yeah. And it's crazy.
So where do you find yourself in this process? Do you find yourself right now just in this discovery of this, holy shit, it's happening right now? Do you find yourself into it, finding a way through it? Or where are you in your process right now with it?
We're in a great place right now. I just cheerlead her on, and she, like when we first started middle school matchups, she was very much involved, and now she just adds help and creative direction sometimes. And now I'm the same way with her stuff. I'm happy to, while she's working late at night, I'm happy to do whatever I need to do, or if she needs some technical help or whatever it does. But mostly I just stay out of her way now. Just let her, like, it's pretty fun to watch.
So have you found yourself battling not to start or do something else? Being that this is taking off, this is your main thing. How hard is it? Now, I'm going to call it derailing, but are there other things festering in the back of your head that you kind of want to try? Because you sound like a serial entrepreneur like all the rest of us.
Yeah, and it's in the past, I'm trying to be more disciplined. I'm not doing the best job of it, but my previous company, if I would have put a little bit more effort into it and had a little bit more mentorship and some strategic advice and would have hired a staff, I could have exited, at many, many millions of dollars. But I kind of got lazy at it, and I kind of got sidetracked, and I just let it it just didn't go where it could have gone.
So you're not allowing yourself to get deep.
I'm not allowing myself. I do always have at least one side project going on, but this is the year that a middle school matchup should really become hopefully a household name with middle school baseball players at least. So I'm trying to keep my eye on the prize there. So
Brandon gave me a book for Christmas this year, and it was the master plan. It was, and when it took us, we sat up here for 3 or 4 hours. You had to fill out everything from daily habits to goals, each goal, action plans. And I've done it 1,000 times before, but not to this. And the biggest thing was no procrastination and to actually finish what I start and not to get derailed from it. And that's even just daily habits of when I'm doing my action plan.
That's a great, I call those, unbuilt bridges. You have all these bridges to get you to that pot of gold on the other side, but even if you build 40 unfinished bridges, you're not getting across, but that one little one will help a little bit. Let's just get it done, and at least learn from it. If it didn't, work out like you thought it was going to work out, at least you learned something.
So that's a question that I have is, how do you identify what done is?
now I'm pretty, because I have a whole like framework on this. Now I'm pretty good at before I start something, and I'm very goal oriented, and I even have this productivity system, weekly productivity system, where done is really part of the thing. So I don't just write down a to do. I like, here's my hypothesis, like why I'm doing this. I have this thing called a growth grid where I list out these 100 different ways on how you can grow a business, and like, hey, we should start a podcast, and I have a way to score it. It comes from a startup world called the ICE system. And you kind of build this like, hey, if we do podcasts, why are we going to do it? Well, it's going to increase our brand awareness. How are we going to measure that? Well, we should get more traffic. We can measure link clicks and stuff like that. And then you go for it, and podcast is a big project, obviously, but you get to it, and then you measure it, and you're like, did it work or did it not work? Do we need to cut it or triple down on it?
Is it like a scale, like a 1 to 10? Like this was a 5, this was a 4, and then you add it.
Yeah, so my growth grid, if anybody just email me at danielhimel@gmail.com, it's actually a pretty cool thing where you go through, and it's great for a business, any size business, because you just throw all these things up on the wall. You take each idea, and everybody votes on it from 1 to 10. ICE, that sounds like we're getting pretty deep. ICE stands for impact, and you grade it 1 through 10. Like 1 is going to have minimal impact. 10 is like it can change the trajectory of our business. And then the C is for confidence, how confident you are that it's going to work or in your hypothesis. And it's like 1 is, I've never seen anybody do this. 5 is like, I've seen somebody do this, but we don't have any experience. And then, towards 10 is like, we've done something very similar to this, we can do it. And then E is for ease, and that's how easy is it going to be, whether money, time, staff members. So 10 is like, it's a 2-hour task and, no money involved, versus 1 is, a multi-month project that spends money. And I think when I went over it with you guys, some people like to put a fun column on there, because some people like, if you're in a certain part of your business, like you only want to do things that are, you're kind of pumped up to do about it. That has to do with, you could add other things to it too. And then you just take those scores across, and then you come out with this average. And then I have these other growth indicators, but you'll see it on the spreadsheet. And then you get this weighted score, and that's really like, that gives you the top 3 things that you should be doing. And what's cool is everybody can vote on it. A good way to do it, if you're doing with your team at a table like this, a good way to do it is give everybody a deck of cards, and people vote on it like that from 1 to 10. Because what happens if Brandon is the boss and he's like, that's an 8, I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's 7, maybe 8, 7, but I might be thinking that's freaking hard. That's a 2. So if everybody just does the first like chink, holds it up, get real scores up there, and then it'll sort by, the 3 most bang for your buck ideas up there, and then you just start executing those down. But it's very important to finish those, right? Like if you committed to executing it, get going, finish it. Did it work? Awesome. If it didn't, what can you learn? Do you need to triple down on it? Or, and then you just, that way you always have your top 3 projects. It also gives you a good repository when you have the more ideas that come up a lot from team members and you.
Well, and I think more than that, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I think one of the most valuable things is, I think we all find ourselves creating to-do lists, finding this crossroads of, I can buckle the next 6 hours and get this done, or I can knock off all these other things on the list in about an hour. I'll pick those things off, and then you get to a point where you have a 6-hour task, but you've got 4 hours, and you go, I'll do it tomorrow.
So it's a great system.
Guilty.
It's a great.
Oh gosh, guilty. I love this.
It's a great repository for new ideas. You throw them on there throughout the quarter, and then just during your quarterly meeting or something like that, you take the 20 minutes with your team to kind of go down there and then, figure out what things you're going to work on next. And it works for growth ideas. It also works for operational ideas. Like if you need some operational efficiencies, you could throw those together. Like, hey, we need, I don't know what would be operations. Like, hey, I think hiring one more staff person in this position will really help. And you do the same measurements, and then you figure out here's your next 10 operational moves. So it
sounds almost pretty dope, even if you just wanted to figure out what you wanted to do. If I wanted to do, I have 5 ideas for starting a business. Yeah. You take those 5 ideas and you break it down like that.
Yep. I do it all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and generating. And I think there's a lot of things that people are going through, and I think a lot of people have seen this veil of humanity be pulled aside in 2020, and I think they're going, all right, I'm done working for this. I'm done doing this. I'm done wasting my life away. What do I actually want to do? And so if they just took that model and went, well, I like doing this, I like doing this, I like doing this. The biggest question I had when I was much younger is, what am I passionate about? And how do I find a passion?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a very more of a philosophical point, but you could say, what do I enjoy?
Right. I mean, you could do that same thing, line up all your business ideas, this is what you want to do, and then you could add another column that's P for passion or fun or whatever like that, and then you could weight it a certain amount, right? And depending on how much because sometimes there's two trains of thought on that, right? Where some people think you don't need to be passionate about it. Sometimes it just needs to make money, right? But you could find like a happy medium there, depending on how much you weight each column. It's super nerdy. Sorry.
You're like a book. What I mean by that, you ever read a book that just changes the whole way you think of everything? That just happened. That literally just happened. I just really just thought, like, I'm sitting here quietly reassessing like 9 different things I've had in my head for like 2 months and thinking about it when you break it down and analyze it that way. And as simple as it may sound, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and you combine that with the idea of how quickly you could validate one of those ideas over the weekend. You could have your middle school matchup idea. I mean, it went from, I don't know what we made our first year, 8,000, and now it's, $500,000 in 2 weekends.
And this is why, Biz, I was saying before Daniel got here, Daniel's very much, you asked the question, how does Elon Musk create SpaceX and Tesla and the Boring Company and this, that, the other, right? Well, he's figured out the systems to create that, right? How does he run all those? I really don't know. He's definitely an alien. But aside from that, a real world example of someone you actually want to hang out with, Daniel, I think, is a perfect example of that. He's a guy that can take this tiny little ember and incubate that and just go, oh.
And I see that. I read Elon's autobiography twice, and sitting here talking to, from him creating PayPal to wherever we're at right now, like I'm listening to it and I'm like, wow. The other thing that's really cool though, and I've noticed about successful people, is the point in fact that you have no problem with sharing information. You just gave out your email address. Hey, if you want this system I got, just email me. Like, that is the biggest thing, reading about people like Dale Carnegie and all those type of things like that, where the thing was they did everything they did to get their riches, to get where they were, and then they spent the second half of their life teaching everybody else how to fish.
This is another thing. It's the perfect goodwill content, because when it comes out of his mouth, it's very easy. But only one guy we know can do it. So that's where we get into, that's the beauty of this podcast too, is look, it sounds really easy to market your business if you know how to do it. It sounds really easy to take a photo if you know how to do it.
True.
And that's where
True.
Daniel is able to say, oh, we'll just validate it. Well, the beauty is go try to do it. And then remember danielhimel@gmail.com, because you're going to need him to do it, because he can hop in and do what would take you 3 months. That's just what he knows. It's the same way.
That is true, but it is attainable. And once you learn that skill set on how to buy traffic to go to a landing page and convert those people into something, an email address or anything like that. If you can learn to do that, and it doesn't take long, there's lots of courses out there to do it. There's people that make a lot of money just teaching you how to do that. You have superpowers. Like you could do anything. And one of those businesses is going to stick. There's a big digital marketer, Russell Brunson. He runs ClickFunnels, and he has this program called One Funnel Away. And it's true. You're one idea, middle school matchup. That's ridiculous. Who would have ever thought that crazy idea over a beer for middle school, pretty mediocre baseball would turn into this amazing thing? And when I say amazing, not just lucrative on the money side of things, but just the way it affects these kids' lives. And so when you have that superpower, whether it's building your own business, helping your wife's business, helping your church, helping a charity, helping raise money for somebody that got their equipment stolen, you have superpowers, and it's attainable through just a little bit of learning. That's all out there free. Don't go buy anything. It's all out there. Don't think anybody has a magic bullet. You just need to learn how to buy traffic and convert them. And it takes buying traffic and a web page. And that's it.
Even education itself is a huge industry. I mean, I'm up to 2 or 3 in the morning every night just studying different people from YouTube. And everybody has a course, everybody has something.
Right.
But I've been able to collect so much collective information that you can always do it right there. But even what they're doing is still sending you somewhere to a landing page to get more. I give you a little bit, but if you want more, come here.
Yeah, that whole funnel thing, it's kind of getting worn out a little bit, but it still absolutely 100% works 70% of the time.
Where do you think it's going to go? Because I agree with you. I think everyone who has a camera will teach you how to make $10,000 a month on snapping photos. Where do you think where do you think the future of this goes? Because I think you're right. I think people are starting to get a little worn out on every dickweed who can stand in front of a Lamborghini tells you how to make $1 million.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the authenticity of it and kind of that conversation. Now it's becoming much more, let's have a conversation about things. Zoom calls, not even just like webinars where you're talking to people, but actually talking to people and becoming and people are getting more wise to being able to discern like, okay, this guy obviously doesn't know what he's doing, or this is, I've never even heard of this guy. Like, who is this guy? And people are able to kind of start discerning that. People are finding the information themselves because it's all out there. Nobody is giving you really, I didn't give any great new information out there. It's probably out there as well. So I think people are starting to get a little smarter to that and searching out just real live mentors and hopefully staying away from a lot of that junk. Like there's Ty Lopez. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh yeah.
So what's crazy is like everybody thought he was like this fraud guy and they thought he was the rental Lamborghini, and then
he was legit.
He's always been legit. And what happened was he really did. He's probably he had this whole thing, I read a book a day, which I'm sure is true, but he probably convinced more kids to read than, in the world than, all the teachers around. Not that it's the teacher's fault, but these guys are inspiring people and they're changing people. And then, everybody thought he was a fraud until he just bought Pier 1 Imports, linens and things. And
yeah, I literally just read this 2 weeks
Radio
ago.
Shack. Like he bought all these companies from the 90s that are kind of going under because he's a marketing genius and he has a team that's just relentless.
I think he got JCPenney too.
Yeah, he just went through, and everybody thought he was just like this fraud guy, but he was really making money. He was one of the original dickweeds that had the stuff out there, but that just goes to show that he's able to do it by validating ideas and just going and doing amazing things. And you couldn't do that. He's doing it obviously at a larger scale, but you can do that too. You guys did it with ICC. There's just so many tools out there where you could just, spin up a business.
He did exactly what you said to do. He spent all of his money. What I've been studying is how people leverage credit. So basically, let's say if you have a credit card with 10 grand on it, you spend 5 or 7 grand in YouTube or Facebook ads. And then he made that money back. But that's all he did was he just bought ads and ads and ads and had his message. And then people started coming to him. And he had legit information to give them. But his whole thing was buying Facebook and YouTube ads. That's how he started.
And then he spun up because he had these superpowers of being a great marketer. He's a great copywriter and he uses all kinds of mind tricks and things like that. But he executed idea after idea after idea. And just like when you're on the plane and you drink, a lot of those little Jack Daniel bottles equal a big Jack Daniels bottle eventually. So that's where he's at right now.
There's another guy that I kind of fell off him a little bit, but I noticed him at front because his scape was Bentley in the back. His name is Dan Locke.
Okay.
Dan Locke, and he taught all his classes in the back of his Bentley, driving around wherever, and he always had the cool sets and everything. But when I finally got through 2 months of following this guy, what it came down to was smart. He talked about copywriting.
Yeah.
That was his end, is how to copyright and make, for what I'm doing right now, you can write the same script for somebody else so they can do their own YouTube channel or their own presentation. And that's what he was about.
And it's how to copywriting, like that skill set to give you superpowers. Copywriting is one of them. It's not there's people that are really high end copywriters and those are like on the fringe, but you could spend the weekend with a couple of books and learn that will get you 80% there. And that's where you start converting. So when you get that traffic to to your page, like just a little bit of copywriting helps. So that's just part of the skill sets that that really just weaponize you, and you can compete with anybody these days with the right idea.
What would you recommend to somebody who's sitting here? Maybe they've got a business that's going. Maybe they've successfully made it through 2020, but they're by the skin of their teeth. What should they be doing right now to really start scaling?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer of Facebook ads. It's still, even though some people believe Facebook is the enemy, but it can be used as a really great tool, and they're just getting better and better. The better they are, the more money they make. But the ability to just get out in front of your clients or potential clients that may not even know about you, and just take them through the idea of, like, they're not even aware of you, and you can make them aware like that, and then they can engage, and then you can you could excite them and get them to actually buy. The ability to do that just in a weekend on Facebook ads is absolutely unbelievable.
And would you talk about diversifying, all getting into the TikToks and the YouTubes and all those other ones, or Instagram, or just stick kind of to Facebook? Because I know Facebook is you can really get into demographics and really dial into who you want.
That's what I love about Facebook is I always divide it up into two things. So if you're selling something that somebody has it on the to-do list, like, hey, I need to go see a chiropractor, that might be something for Google AdWords, because people are going to type that in, like local chiropractor, and that's where you need to really optimize for that. But if you have a product or service that people aren't necessarily looking for, and it happens to you all the time, where you're like, oh, what is this? And you'll click over, like, that does look, oh, that is a pretty cool backpack, and you go and click that backpack, and then now wherever you visit on the website, now you have 80 different backpacks
all day.
You're done.
Right.
Anything you say Google and you look for it, it's all over everything.
Yeah, and that kind of marketing gymnastics, I would call it, 5 years ago used to be very difficult and very hard, and now it's very easy and very free to do. Facebook does it all for you, and the ability to be able to do what $1 billion budgets used to be able to do just 7-8 years ago, be able to do it from your laptop at cigar lounges is just amazing. So I'm always a big believer in learning how to buy traffic. There's an endless source of it. It's still relatively cheap, and it's predictable. It's measurable. It's just amazing. So I'm still a big believer just getting traffic first. As soon as you solve the traffic problem to your site or to your offer, even if you don't have a website, even if it's just to a landing page, like a simple landing page, then worry about converting. Another thing that I think people don't use enough is a good email marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. There's so many really inexpensive inexpensive marketing tools that you can use to, constantly email. And it doesn't even have to be sales email. It's just, just letting them know you care, giving them little bits of value. Like one of the things that launched Carrie's thing was she had a 3 Things Thursday, and it was, everybody gets the emails from the realtors that, oh, it's time to clean your gutters, and oh, did you know that we've sold? And I'm like, nobody cares about that unless they're already looking for a house, and then even so, maybe, and then even so, they already have a realtor. So what we would do, and it was my idea, and she, so she would
shameless plug.
So she would send out this thing, 3 Things Thursday, and pretty much since we raised 5 kids, we had lots of like little parenting hacks, lots of just life things that some of this stuff just here, like have a Gina for your business, just little things like that. That's things that people could use, and then they're like, oh, Carrie's a realtor. I remember that now. I don't think people are doing enough of that, and it's so cheap and easy to do now and automated. A lot of that stuff is you could really set it up and really kind of forget it.
And it's interesting you're saying that, because from Go Local Group, we are expanding and making a slight pivot to a more canned approach, utilizing these tools of automation. And you have SMS abilities, you have email automation abilities, you have all going to that form, the pop-up, the web page, the everything.
Even on social media, you can put your social media all 2 months out, have everything loaded automatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you can take a point where you just say, and it's a really easy process of planning of, here's what my end goal is. Okay, it's going to be a 30-day sprint. We need to hit 1 a week here on our primary channel. Our secondary channel, we're going to hit it every other week. We're going to go here. We're going to set them up, and then just build it out and let it go. That's a direction that we're looking there's a program called Daily Story that utilizes that. Really, really cool setup.
Yeah, and there's just, I think, again, going back to that growth grid, it would be an idea, like for something for like industrial cigar, like, you know, perhaps if you guys know what I enjoy, right? So you guys could have me in a database in your marketing system and saying, hey, I like mild to medium cigars. Not a month should go by without you guys sending me an email saying, hey, this is what we got coming up on the horizon. This is going to fit your palate. And then when I click on one of those things, it should alert somebody over here for like a text message. And all that stuff is easy to build, and it's all automated now, and you can just set it up and forget it once you build it. And again, that's stuff that used to be reserved for the enterprise software that licenses cost like, you know, $19,000 a month. And now it's stuff that costs $19 a month. Just the tools that are in your hands, it's just astonishing. And coming from a corporate software thing, we used to pay insane prices for these e-commerce platforms or build our own. And now you could compete and you could turn around, and these platforms are now scalable and bulletproof and backed up. And, you know, when things go down, they come back up and they spin up, and it's just amazing. So I love the email stuff too. A lot of people don't do that. It's super free. It's super easy. Email is still one of the most valuable places in somebody's lives. If you land in their email box, especially if you're going to provide any kind of value, like telling me what cigars.
Do you see a trend as far as, so 2020 to me was the year of realization, and then a lot of people being let go, but they found that entrepreneurial whatever, you know, like get rich off of owning 10 million rental houses. That was a trend. I'm not saying it's still not, but flip houses, or buying refurbished cars. I was even for 2 minutes studying selling luxury watches, flipping watches.
Okay,
basically.
flipping watches, yeah.
You know, he knows me very well. That's my thing. I'm always looking for what is that big, and even Pop said it the other day, I'm always looking for what is that one thing I'm going to put my eggs in a basket and make it grow. But there's so many different things out there. Do you see, but like you said, things are kind of getting oversaturated. You think things are going to make a turn towards something else, or what is that one thing that we haven't discovered yet to wear out or to do? Like, you know, what's the next trend?
I mean, it feels like everybody's turning into, like, everybody's got their own magic. Everybody's got their own expertise where they're putting out their real courses that make real money, where you're teaching people how to do what you love. So whether that's photography is a tough one to break into because there's a lot of photographers. Yes. But there's enough people that want to learn photography. There's enough people out there for everybody. But I feel like everybody is able to build a course now. And that course isn't going to make you $1 million, but it could build a following and an influence. And then you're on to something, right? So I feel like it's really diversification, where it used to be like everything's, you know, how to make $1 million on the internet or with that. Now it's like how to be a great person in a cigar lounge, like cigar lounge etiquette, like just everything about cigars that you'd want to know in a 10-week course. And even though if it's free, that puts your name out there and you start building this following. And then from there you could, you know, do who knows what you do. But when you have 1,000 people, you know, with their eyes on you, you could do some pretty amazing things. You could put out products, and you could put out, you know, joint ventures, and you're making connections. So I just feel like everybody's building like these little micro businesses everywhere as their side gigs.
I think that's why whoever created the Masterclass series, genius, to go get the top of the field and just to put them all at one. And it was very expensive when it first came out. Like you just said, now it's more obtainable.
Yeah.
And it's even grown. And like you said, they have classes on how to smoke and have etiquette in a cigar lounge.
Right.
I know how literally I went and bought a pit smoker because I watched the guy from down in Austin know how to do barbecue. So now
we watched that one at home too.
Oh, my kids are like, if you make ribs one more time, Dad, please, no more ribs. I took Spike Lee's class on filmmaking, but it's anything you can think of, it's in that masterclass. And I'm like, that's a one-stop shop for anything. And they're growing, like you said, they're growing the different subjects.
Yeah, little communities. And I think even if you're not making a gajillion dollars, it's bringing more value to people, and it's bringing more joy to your life, which makes it, you know, you could be making, if you quit your corporate job, and you could be making half as much, but you're happy. It makes a big difference. In community, it's a good full circle. It definitely brings that. So whatever you're doing.
I think more realization now is coming into a thing. It's not all about being a millionaire. It's about being what makes you happy. You know, you don't want to be broke, but the freedom to do what you want doesn't have to mean it has to make millions. It's the freedom.
Yep, I think you're exactly right. I mean, in going to what you're saying of the community side of things, it's amazing how many people just want to watch you be happy. You know, we do Cigars 101 here at Industrial every Tuesday, and we talk about good. You know, here are some of the things we run through it. But then this week we did a show where we brought in 3 people. We talked about their cigar experiences. Biz was in on it. We had Jonathan Scott. We had some guys, and I've received no less than 10 texts. That was the coolest show ever, and it was just us sitting talking nonsense.
And the dopest thing about that show, we came up with it like 10 minutes before the show.
As with everything we do.
But no, because of the point and fact of, at the end of the day, when we're living life, things have changed, you know, relocating here, all the stuff that we do, you kind of start thinking in a way of time is the only valuable thing you can't get back. And you can't put a dollar amount on it, not to me. You know, so how can you be the most efficient with it so that you enjoy the time that you do have?
Totally. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing, right? And I think, you know, people staying at home, people don't want to go back to work, and people seeing how productive they can be by, you know, no commute, and I could be at my laptop doing productive stuff within 5 minutes of waking up. And there's, you know, all that buffer at the beginning of the day and the end of the day really, you know, it adds up quickly. And I think people are starting to see like what they can really do from home without somebody on top of them, without, I think there's no turning back. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are going to do great things, which is great because there's a lot of people out there that have a lot to do that would be trapped otherwise. You know, they're going to be being a business analyst in a cubicle somewhere, but now their greatness is going to show. You know, it could be the next Elon Musk. It could be, you know, who knows what it's going to be, but I think it's really exposed some of that, and it's really inspired people to go out for that.
Definitely emailing you as soon as this episode is over. I'm emailing. Like, my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour right now.
And speaking of that, you have middle school matchup. So if anyone who's watching has middle school kids, make sure. How can someone get in contact with you if they want to learn more about what you do? If they want to learn about middle school matchup, if they want to learn about anything that Daniel Himel has touched?
Yeah, so like middleschoolmatchup.com is where we're at, and then just really my email or my Instagram, just look for me, danielhimel @gmail.com, and go there. I have a really cool productivity system. It's hardcore. People love it though.
We'll put everything in the show notes below. So in the description, we'll have all that information in there.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help answer anybody. If anybody wants to bounce any ideas off me, I get those emails quite a bit. I'm that guy where like, hey, what if I did this? And I'm always happy to lend a hand, whatever you need.
And I'll second that. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you. Your day has to be just absolutely wild, but the fact that you take your time to come hang with us, it means the world to us.
Thank you. This is great.
That is
excellent show. Excellent episode. I mean, wow.
I would say so. Folks, thank you later. Talk to you later.